Another day here in Targoviste, and look at this. Something's going on outside my hotel. It's a very popular event. Lots of people here. Thousands upon thousands. But this city has more to offer than this event, which I don't really know much about. There's a building. I'm gonna go over there right now, which is interesting, to say the least. And there's another spot as well, some ruins that are quite interesting. So, two things here in the city to check out. But look at this. So this building here is very important in the city. A trial took place here in 1989 against a horrible dictator, Ceausescu, and his wife. So let's check out this building. If you're old enough, you might remember the trial. This room here is where Elena and Ceausescu had to go through a medical examination to see if they were fit for trial. And the conclusion was clear, they were fit for trial. And before we see the room where the trial went on, we're going to see where they stayed. Because they spent a couple of nights there, 3 nights, something like that, before the trial. And this is the room they stayed at, prisoners. They were probably quite worried about what's going to happen. Maybe they thought about escaping. Not easy. And if someone did try to come and help them escape, the guards here were ordered to shoot them immediately. They were not going to leave this place alive. Let's check out the room where the trial happened. The trial lasted 90 minutes. And this is it. Nicola and Elena Ceausescu were sitting here together. Very angry, I remember from the footage I've seen. The prosecutor, pretty pissed off. And unfortunately the judges that were sitting here were not in a great mood either. And after 90 minutes, the verdict was clear. Death by execution. So they were taken out together. The idea was to take them out one at a time, but they left together. And a short walk over here. Back at my hotel, the service is still going on here. So many people, thousands of people. This is not a big city, but it seems like most of the people here are gathered here today. And this event will probably last for a couple of days. They sure take their religion seriously here in Targoviste. It's time to see the other famous attraction here in Targoviste. Ruins from the 1400s, 1500s. The time when Dracula, Vlad Tepes, ruled this area. From his palace here in the city. Who was worst? Ceausescu or Vlad Tepes? I think that if you look objectively at what Vlad Tepes did to his enemies, impaling them, I think it's hard to say that he's not the worst, but he's a hero in Romania. Vlad Tepes is a hero, and Ceausescu is far from a hero, so we got to take a closer look and remember that a lot of the people who Vlad Tepes killed, they had it coming. They were invaders of his country. They had nothing to do here. Ottoman Turks, bad people coming here and trying to mess up, trying to conquer the lands. So Vlad Tepes did what he had to do. Took care of those people in a brutal fashion, making sure that they would think twice about coming back. And for a while he succeeded in that. Might not be the most spectacular place, but history of this palace, quite interesting. This is where Vlad Tepes reigned, ruled. For not so many years, but... And then he built this tower. So you're gonna take a look at that. It's a good view from up there. Yeah, he did what he had to do. Took care of those people in a brutal way. Here's a lot of information about restoration, which has been going on in the area. And we'll continue to go. Still people working here on the site. And of course, Vlad Tepes is famous for impaling his victims. It's a horrible way to go. He used the Turkish method. He learned it while he was in Turkey, because Vlad Tepes was actually a prisoner in Turkey. He was a hostage when he was a child, taken by the Turks. And he lived with the Turkish ruler. And they wanted to groom him so he could be a good leader in the future, a good representative for the Sultan. So they even gave him money and manpower to take back his lands. And he succeeded in that, but then he backstabbed the Sultan. He did not want to rule as a subordinate to the Sultan in Constantinople, because by then the Ottomans had conquered Constantinople. The very Sultan that Vlad Tepes was fighting, Mehmed II, he had conquered Constantinople, so he was a very powerful man. And took a lot of balls for Vlad Tepes to stand up against him. Unfortunately, the younger brother of Vlad, Radu, he worked with the Ottomans. He was a traitor to his country. So those two brothers fought, and eventually Radu came out the winner for a while there, but unstable period, so he disappeared too. But for 400 years, the leaders of this area, Wallachia, were subordinate to the Ottomans. So Vlad Tepes tried. He tried hard, and he spent a lot of time and energy and used some brutal methods to scare them away. Their own methods against them, impaling. The Turkish method of doing it through the anus. That's how he preferred to do it. That's how he learned it when he was in Turkey. Worst way. So yeah, bad way to execute someone, but he learned from the best, from the Turks, who had nothing to do here, not their land. So it's highly understandable that he was upset about that. And back then you had to make an impression. It's hard to scare people back then. They were used to bad things, so impalement, did the trick. And down here we have a cellar. Could this be the place where the rulers of this palace torture their enemies. We know that Vlad Tepes had sadistic tendencies, to say the least. He loved to torture his prisoners. There's stories about him having a meal and enjoying a drink while people were suffering enormously from impalement and such. So, in many ways, obviously a raging lunatic, but still a hero in this country for standing up against the Ottomans. You can't really judge people back then on the today's standards. And you can question the standards of today as well. The world hasn't changed all that much. Quite a brutal place where human life is not worth much, it seems. The leaders of today and the leaders of the past, not so different than what some people might think. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that and see the reality of the we live in. Here's the throne of a later ruler, not Vlad Tepes, another guy, possibly related to Vlad Tepes. Over there we see the church we went into earlier. That's from the 1500s and dating from after Vlad Tepes ruled this area. This church, however, is from his time, from the 1400s. So this is where he came to pray, ask God for guidance about how to handle these Turks coming into his land. And in his mind, God probably told him that he had to be very firm with these people. He had to set an example. And the conclusion was probably that impalement was the only way. And doing it the Turkish way. Vlad Tepes learned from the Turks and used their own methods against them. Impalement. It was not an invention of his. The Turks had specialized in that for centuries, and he learned that while he spent time in Turkey as a prisoner. The church is closed, so we can't go inside. But this is one of the few remnants that we know has a direct connection to Vlad Tepes. He was in here, he prayed, and God told him, as I said, to be very, very firm with these people. But the church over there is still more impressive. But dating from 1500s, I think it was built in 1584.